Thank you and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming at such short notice. I will start from the beginning. Um, the in 2006, there was a act, Berbice Bridge Act, which was passed in the then would be the ninth Parliament in January of 2006. And so yes, that have been in the so that have been the eighth Parliament with the Berbice Bridge Act, and that was passed and sent to by former President Barrett Jack Deal. In the 10th Parliament, which you know was a hung parliament, there were several motions passed by the then opposition, I think led by Minister Hammond, who was the shadow minister at that time for infrastructure, which called on the government to reduce the tolls of the Berbice River Bridge. At the same time, the community of Berbice, of the county of Berbice, as well as the business, um, the commission, the private sector commission, the Berbice Chamber of Commerce, and the current Diabo County Chamber of Commerce, several of them called on the government, that's in 2011, 2012, to also reduce the toll on the for the Berbice River Bridge. They found at that time it was burdensome. Subsequent to the elections of May 2015, and one of the promises and commitments of the coalition government at that time was then addressed immediately the reduction of toll for the persons in Berbice. I as Minister responsible for public infrastructure would have written to the Berbice Bridge Work Company Inc. on several occasions to engage them that's in 2015, about a reduction in the tolls. As you know, it was a long protracted negotiation. In the interim, while they sought time to consult with all the various stakeholders, we were able to, I instituted the Berbice River Taxi Crossing, which allowed school children and pensioners, teachers, nurses, and such to cross free, of course, at a limited time. It's just only for a limited period, I think between 7 and 9 a.m. in the morning, which is school times, and then in the afternoon during the school period. So therefore, and that was our attempt to ensure that we could deliver our promise, because at all times we recognized that the Berbice Bridge Company Inc. was a private entity. In January of 2016, we signed an agreement with the BBCI for a 10% reduction in toll, and basically how that works is the government every quarter we pay in advance, every quarter, and then the audit office of Guyana does an audit on the traffic counts, and then and the next payment there either is a credit or an increase, and we've been doing that since January of 2016 to the tune of approximately 155 million Ghana dollars per annum since then, from 2016, 2017, and as well as 2018, which is currently anticipated to continue as well in 2019. The Berbice Bridge Company in that period of time would have written to me in March 2015, August the 6th, 2015, January 2016, and then most recently July of 2018, seeking an increase in toll. And as stated publicly, I have informed them on all occasions that the government is unminded and is not minded to and will not be increasing consideration of the toll. It is of interest to note that the concession agreement for this bridge expires in 9 years. It's 11 or 12 is 2021 of the concessionary period has already elapsed. The first application in the for increasing tolls was March 2015. It's very instructive to note that from when they started, which I think is 2008, 2008 till March of 2015, there was no application whatsoever for an increase of toll. This was instructive because we considered that having had been no previous application for 9 years, we considered that they were obviously well pleased and with their toll agreement. However, as soon as the government would have changed, there were 3 subsequent, of course, to this government. There was, for some reason, they never applied to the previous government other than for an increase in toll. However, my position remained the same. The question of the maintenance of the pontoons arose early on this year. We were contacted by the bridge saying that they are challenged financially and they cannot, under the current financial strength, service the pontoons. I commissioned a team headed by the general manager of the Demerara Harbour Bridge. As you know, Demerara Harbour Bridge is about 40 years old, 30 odd years old, and that's the first floating bridge in the company. The general manager of that corporation has extensive knowledge in keeping in servicing and pontoons. And the general manager and his team did an inspection of the Berbice Bridge and the pontoon system, and they provided me with a report, which I shared with the Berbice Bridge Company Inc. And basically, the report stated that no maintenance on those pontoons were done since inception. The recommended period for maintenance for a pontoon in that sort of condition were 3 to 5 years. We used the 5 years as the outside limit. And so therefore, obviously, and there are 39 pontoons there, and so obviously the pontoons all in the river there would have missed 2.5 cycles of maintenance. I then, in view of public safety, approached the cabinet with a recommendation. And I approached the cabinet twice. On the first occasion, cabinet said I should further explore it. But on the second occasion, cabinet agreed that I would, and this decision was given in August the 24th of this year. Cabinet agreed with a proposal which we put forward to them, which is that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, through the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation, take over the maintenance of the Berbice Bridge, River Bridge, of the pontoons of the River Bridge for the remaining life of the concessionary period, which is 9 years. The allocation of, we had $90 million in the 2019, we placed in the 2019 budget. And this is to carry out the maintenance of 6 pontoons in 2019. We also sought Cabinet's permission and was given approval to include a fixed sum of $148 million, which was for the establishment of a dry dock or a loading facility for the rehabilitation of the pontoons. And then Cabinet also asked that a team led by this ministry, supported by finance, business, and legal affairs, engage the Berbice River Bridge Company Inc. to reflect their proposal, to discuss the proposal that we had here with them. I then sought to arrange a meeting with the Berbice Bridge Corporation, and I met them right in this room here on October the 11th, 2018, on which I put our proposal to them, whereby the government again from 2019 would take over the maintenance of the pontoons, 39 pontoons. It is a cost, it is estimated to be approximately about $1 billion for the 9 remaining years of the concessional agreement. So we said out it is in effect an additional subsidy over and above the one that we have on the toll reduction to the Berbice Bridge. The bridge countered to say that the proposal which I'm making only addresses their operational costs, and that they have obviously their financiers, which is basically their financiers wanted back their money. The financiers wanted their profits, which was signed by the guaranteed signed by the previous government. So therefore, there are two different issues here. There's a question of them getting back, making a profit. There's a question of profit, and there's a question of operations. In this room, I explained to them I was only empowered to discuss the operations, because that is my mandate. That they should submit to me, which I'll pass on to the Minister of Finance, a breakdown, because they said they are owed, the company has debts to the tune of $6 billion. And so I said, well, that was not my mandate. I cannot have a word, say a word on that. But the $6 billion should be put in writing so we can know who's owed what. I haven't received that, because I asked them to do that, so I would have passed it on to the Minister of Finance. I haven't received that as yet, but they said that all this NIS, hand in hand trust, hand in hand, not trust, hand in hand, and several other persons would have invested in the bridge, and they expected a return. I was informed that the contract that they have signed with the previous government guarantees them between 9 and 12% rate of return. I inquired, of course, the very thing, if the Berbice Bridge would have met with the financiers and asked them if it's prudent at this stage in time, why not, if they were willing to take a lower rate of return. I mean, 12%, anybody who quite knows how you only get one, or if that much, if you put the money in fixed deposit right now. So 12%, 9 and 12% was quite generous. And they replied that none of their financiers were willing to negotiate or reduce the interest that they said that they signed. I asked if they were willing to sell shares to the government, if the government, and they made it quite clear there's a differential between shares and debt and profit. So therefore, even though if I buy over the shares, they still have debt and profit to the person. So therefore, that would not do. And they ended up by saying that they see the only viable reason is that the government buying them out. So we agreed on the October 11th meeting, at the end of the October 11th, we agreed on a position whereby I will write them officially, which I have done, saying this is government offer, and they will send back to me the information on their debt and who they owe and how they arrive at the $6 billion debt. I have not received that on the debt. However, today, it was dated yesterday, but I only received it today. There's a letter from the chairman of the Berbice Bridge stating that thanking me, of course, for the meeting, expressing their disappointment. They reiterated their opposition, and of course, we went on to say that there's a toll order, which there is. We've never denied that there is a toll order. They've indicated that they've sought a legal opinion, and based on that legal opinion, they are imposing the fine, the tolls which you would have heard, which it means from November the 12th. And they said they start, in consideration of the toll policy in the concession agreement, we inform you that effective November the 12th, the applicable toll charges for the use of the Berbice Bridge will be adjusted and implemented as listed below. And you have them. I think that they would have made the release. A car goes to $8,040. So that's where we are at. They quoted a section of the, and I will give you government's response. I'll give you a full background. They quoted a section of the Berbice River Bridge Act 2006, under which they said empower them, and this is clause 4.2 of the act. It's available publicly. And they said that basically the part they said the concessionaire may specify different toll amounts in relation to the use of the bridge by reference to such circumstances or a combination of circumstances as the concessionaire may, after consultation with the minister, determine. So apparently the Berbice Bridge Corporation used the meeting that I called to inform them of government's offer and government position on it as a consultation. And they have said all that because I met them, and of course they never indicated that to me during the course of the meeting, because obviously I would have had a different posture. But anyway, so they considered that that is consultation, and that the meeting I called to tell them what government's willing to offer is the meeting, and they are now imposing this. So based on that, these are the positions of central government, and which I've communicated with cabinet. Firstly, my position remains the same. I will not be approving any toll increases for the Berbice River Bridge crossing, and that is our position on that. We will be seeking legal advice from the Attorney General's chamber on the legal implications of what is the power and the authorities under this act. Thirdly, I would like to give all assurances to all commuters in Berbice and Region 5 and Region 6 that the government will do all that is necessary to ensure that commuters can continue to use the bridge safely and without any particular undue harassment or tolls. And fourthly, that I will continue to put, and I will include in the budget, the sums I think of $238 million is already approved for in 2019, and we will be making provisions for to ensure that the maintenance of the bridge and the safety and integrity of the bridge is not compromised during these periods. And finally, we note the date by which the toll is to be implemented. It's no coincidence that is the date of the local government elections. We do note by that mere move alone that there is political implications and political reasoning and political machinations behind this here. And we call on the people of Berbice, and I personally call on the people of Berbice to inquire of their elected representatives from the region chairman of Berbice and the member of parliaments of Berbice and the leader of the opposition, how they envisage and how they, what he envisaged this project to work like when he conceived of it in 2006. How he conceived, because it is ingrained in a toll agreement, that the people of Berbice would have been able to afford this sort of price. And what is his, and how does he propose to come to discuss with the government a solution? Because obviously the fault and the genesis of this is purely squarely in the hands of the agreement in which they would have, the government, the opposition would have appeared. So obviously, we are willing to listen to see what suggestions he would have, since this is a storm by his and their making. The idea of buying out, and finally, and I want to say personally, if he's had any discussions with any of the financiers, who some of them are very well acquainted with him, and continue to be very well acquainted, if he's had any discussions with them on behalf of the people of Berbice about, one, reducing the rate of their guaranteed rate of return. I mean, you move from 9, if they're willing to, at this stage, could go down to something very reasonable, 1 or 2% if you get in the banking system. So that is my my remarks, and we will obviously, during the time between now and November the 12th, when the threat of a toll increase, we will work assiduously, one with the 80 chambers, and two, with all stakeholders, ensure that this unconscionable rate increase is not passed on to the persons of Berbice. Thank you.
Sir, Dr. Shabbat, sir, you were talking here about legal advice from the Attorney General's chambers. Would that mean that you're hoping to see whether that there could be an injunction to stop the increases?
I would like to know exactly the powers, the powers and the limits that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure has on this. I will not rule out that there's something called public good, and obviously, and if something is deemed a public good, and it's a public necessity, they probably are enshrined in some part of our legislative body, some authorities for us to keep things that are public good operational. So I would like him to examine all the implications and the clauses in this contract, as well as the concessional agreement, as well as other applicable laws, to let me know the limits of the authorities that I would have, including, as you said, legal injunctions or elsewhere.
Just to recap for the figures, so I have a clear and precise understanding. If you were to take over the bridge, how much would it cost the government?
We don't know that. We were told $6 billion is what they have in debt and those things like that. We don't know. We can't tell you. I can't tell you if that's true or not. You have to direct that question to them. I asked them for the information, and as I said, they were supposed to, and the agreement was they were supposed to give me the information, all the debtors and those things, all the liabilities, all the person that stood to make this huge profits, and I would have passed it on to the Minister of Finance, because he is the person that can analyze these details and guide me further. Of course, I never received that, so you may want to take that up with them directly.
Gordon Mosley, News Source. Minister, sir, could you say whether your ministry and the government would be willing to release the full contract and all of the agreements associated with the Berbice River Bridge project?
Well, there is a, I was informed there's a confidentiality clause in the agreement, so I can't. But I'm made to understand that certain members of the media already were able to have copies of that. So maybe you always speak to each other. So, but part of the ministry, they're bound by certain confidentiality clauses, which we abide by.
And for persons who might not fully understand the public-private sector arrangement with regard to this bridge, could you break down the government's stake in the bridge as against the private sector's stake, and why it is you may not be able to flip the board's decision on this?
Well, no. What it is, I mean, this here is a project conceived, public-private partnership, conceived under the previous administration, whereby the majority of the money came from, well, I mean, quasi-private organized. The NIS is the biggest stakeholders. NBS has, and of course the other banks, they would have put in a minor share in it. So obviously the money came from these entities, the banks or the bank financial institutions. I think Republic Bank and GBTI may have a minor share in it. I don't have the full list as well as asking, but the majority of the money came from NIS and New Building Society. And by investing, it's purported they were given a guaranteed rate of return. And the guaranteed rate of return, I mean, it was calculated on a really, I would say, a sort of pixie dust basis. The premise was that if you build a bridge, more people will start traveling, the volume of cars would increase, so therefore with the increase of cars, the toll will go down in the future. So they had this really lovely proposal. It obviously was not grounded in any sort of reality whatsoever. So what happened, and what is happening now, is that the actual cars, the amount of cars that are using the bridge has reduced. Because even the toll that is subsidized now, persons find it burdensome. and so obviously they only cross the bridge when they need to. They don't cross for leisure, they don't cross because obviously a car pays $1,900. So the toll has, the traffic has reduced, and what it means is that for them to get the guaranteed rate of return, they have to raise the tolls exponentially because of the reduced toll, the reduced traffic. So, it was grounded on only economics only can be explained by the good opposition leader and the persons in Nissel at those times. But the reality is that the persons of Berbice cannot afford it. I've been written to by the Upper Berbice, the Upper Quarantine Chamber of Commerce, the Berbice Chamber of Commerce, the New Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, pleading with me not to accede to any toll increases. That was early on, and they Upper Quarantine Borough Commerce in Quarantine Agency wrote saying that they are now finding themselves via rice in the quarantine, and they are now doing better, and the economy there is now moving forward. And any increase in tolls, because obviously to export the rice that they're producing, it goes across the Berbice Bridge, and they said that it will set the whole rice industry and the recovery of Region 6 back. Same was said by the Berbice Chamber of Commerce as well as New Amsterdam. So we are well grounded, and obviously the ordinary man and the ordinary citizens of Berbice have already asked publicly that there's no toll increases be implemented, and we are and I am maintaining that position.
Could you confirm that you're basically opposing increases because of political implications for?
No, obviously not. I'm talking about economic implications. I don't think anybody in this country can afford to pay what will be probably the highest worldwide toll for a bridge. Nothing to do with politics. Nobody, there's no other bridge, even at $11 now, that's what it is now. There's no, I don't know of any other bridges that has that high tolls, and it's proposed to go to $40 per car. And if you look at minibus to carry our citizens over, will go to, minibuses will go up to 5'8", 4x4, 10.6. Truck, which carries the goods for everybody, is $36. $180. There's nowhere, there's nothing with politics, it's just pure everyday economics. No one can afford that, and you'd obviously be seriously affecting the person in Region 6. Everything will automatically increase the cost of living, the goods and services cost, everything, because the Berbice Bridge Act prohibits any other means of crossing the river, any other vehicle, means of any vehicles crossing the river. By implementing this act in 2006 when the bridge was formed, no other vessel can carry vehicles across the Berbice River. So therefore you can only use this bridge. There's no other alternative for the person in Berbice. So they've got nothing to do with politics, that's pure economics.
So the government violated the agreement by allowing river taxis and in fact building one.
We're talking about vehicles.
Oh, vehicles. And quickly.
On the river taxi just carry school children, nurses, teachers, pensioners.
On the one hand, you are opposing the increase. On the other hand, Dr. Surendra Prasad, who is a staunch supporter of your party, is very much in praise of the bridge, and he's supporting the increase. What's going on here?
Well, you see, Mr. Dr. Prasad is by virtue of, and I should address that. This bridge is 9 years old. No, it's 11 years old now. Only time NIS was able to get the chairmanship, and they're the majority stakeholder. The only time NIS has been able to get the chairmanship was after the new government. Now, Dr. Surendra Prasad, and he is a very close ally of mine. I mean, I know him personally. He is in a procure position, which I do understand. NIS, which he's also the chairman, as you know, because of this investment and several others, TICO and those things like that, are also in a precarious situation. Right? So therefore he's trying to get as much money from wherever for NIS. the government has recognized that. We've been paying a bond annually to NIS to ensure which is to pay back for the monies that they would have lost to CLICO. Because remember, this is not the only loss-making, it's not the only loss-making investment CLICO would have made over the years under the stroke of the PPP. They would have invested in CLICO heavily. And of course, CLICO went belly up. So they made a loss there. In this year, they've invested money, our money, because our pensioners' money. So he's in that position where he is seeking to, of course, try and somehow or the other keep both afloat. So I understand his difficulties. Notwithstanding that, our position remains the same. My position remains the same.
What is the finance minister's position on this whole matter? Is he willing to dole out more public funds?
Well, you have to speak to him, but I know from my brief discussion in cabinet is absolutely not. He's not minded to dole out more public funds.
I'm trying to get an understanding of the investors, sir. Are we understanding that while the NIS might be the single largest investor in the bridge, collectively other investors have a bigger stake?
No. I think the NIS. I mean, I can't give you the figures definitive, but I think the NIS has in about 70% of the money, and then you have 70 or more, and then you have small investors who would have come in, and a New Building Society has about $50 million, which is like 5%. So other persons would have now put in small amounts like that to get to the 100% for it. Obviously, how it goes, NIS, even though it's like that, even though they put in the 70%, they are the last in line. That is the difficulty they have to collect any money. So that is why that's the pressure on Dr. Prasad. Obviously, the smaller but bigger fish gets the first bite of the cherry. So he's trying to ensure that something is left for NIS.
Sir, with regards to the act for the bridge, has the government been looking at the idea of making some amendments to that act with regards to the crossing, the ferry system that could be reintroduced? Could that be made, or is that locked out to under the agreement?
Well, I mean, at this stage, no. I do think all options are on the cards. Obviously, the AG chamber, the review by the AG chamber will be very instructive. But I want to tell you this: that it is not an easy task to put back in a ferry system. When they pulled out, when the bridge came into effect, we just took the ferries away. We did very, very little maintenance on either Rossignol or the New Amsterdam Stelling. So therefore, obviously, it will be a tremendously costly exercise to bring them back up to speed to the extent where they can have a ferry docking at them. I mean, obviously, and that's a fact. So you can go there and you could see how these stellings are sort of dilapidated. So therefore, it's a tremendously expensive option and timely option to put back on ferry crossings there. And obviously, the ferries have been redeployed. They're in Legwon, they're in Bartica, Wakeland, they're on the Essequibo and the Demerara River. So therefore, obviously, that also has another implication. So it's not an easy option to put on there, but all options will have to be considered.
And sir, you're saying you're not giving any approval, and the government is not giving any approval for this increase. The bridge company, however, is maintaining it has spoken to its legal side, and they're saying to go ahead with this. If on November 12th, when that clock strikes, and they increase those fares, what can the government do at that stage? What would you say to the Berbicians?
Well, I want to assure, Gordon, good question. I want to assure the entire Berbice that we will do everything in our powers to ensure that this orders and tools are passed on to them. As I said, when the Minister of Legal Affairs, the Attorney General, examines and gives me all the legal options, then from there I go back to Cabinet and we can see, we have several options. We would have options. I mean, if he recommends an amendment, we could do that. If finance recommends a financial route, we can go there. Or if the Minister of Public Security says that it's a vital and important surface and says declare an order to keep it open, I mean, we'll do that. I mean, so the entire gamut of possibilities are open. I don't know which one we will do this time, but I do know the outcome will be that there will be no fare increases to the people of Berbice.
Is the Alliance for Change using this as leverage against the APNU?
Why that's an absolutely daft question, because we obviously, one has always made it clear, this is nothing to do with APNU coalition, always made it clear that we're not considering any toll increases. The AFC has zero to do with this. I mean, I was in Berbice up to Saturday giving them this commitment. So the AFC has zero to do with this, and the AFC is saying, I mean, the chances of this here, so it's with the pie in the sky deals and made under PPP. Zero to do with the AFC, zero to do with the APNU or the coalition. The whole, and the reality is the whole concept what the previous administration would call public-private partnerships was just flawed, and they just continue, and this is just a manifestation of those flawed deals. Has nothing to do with the AFC, because we feel very well, have always been very supportive of people in everything six.
But you had 3 years almost to go back to the negotiating table. What stopped you?
Listen to me. The first
fixed agreement.
we have always continued. The Minister of Finance will always continue maintaining options to try and resolve this. As you can remember, when we bought out, when we purchased the sales of DDL, remember that it took us a year for that sale to go through, because it had to be approved by the board. It took a year to go through. The Minister of Finance and I have made it public, Dennis, you know that, if anybody willing to sell their shares at reasonable prices, we're willing to listen. No one has come forward. So, I mean, the 3 years, I mean, it's a definitely, no one has come forward to say it, or they're willing to share. It's quite, I mean, unfortunate.
Yeah, but beyond selling the shares, are there aspects of the agreement could have been renegotiated for almost 3 years ago,
Every time, every single time, including you in the press, every single time we attempted, every single time we heard, we were hearing what you were hearing now is a private-public partnership, and their investors are not interested in any other than their money, in any discussions other than getting the rate of return on interest they wanted.